This is episode 1 of the Liberating Water podcast, focused on the ways of water. Water is used in almost every touch point in life, and yet fresh water has remained out of touch and out of reach for so many. The Liberating Water podcast is highlighting the science, history, methodology, and debates about the access of fresh water, the opportunities, and the technologies now available to serve the smallest towns up to the largest nations. The aim of this podcast is to ignite conversations covering the way of water from personal use to commercial use. This includes the understanding, awareness, and changes of how water is treated, recycled, reused, repurposed, distributed, and accessed. Through sharing subjective, down-to-earth conversations, content, and interviews, the desire of the podcast is to focus on solutions instead of blame that can serve as a conduit to create active change with environmentally sensitive and proven technologies that many want to see when it comes to water. The Liberating Water podcast is presented by the Liberating Water Directive and the Fish-stewarding-group. Liberating Water Directive is stewarding responsible water technologies and applications for both commercial and personal benefits. And now, after all of that, the founder, the steward, the creator, the CEO of Liberating Water Directive, Douglas P. Fish.
Water is life. It is the Earth's resources. History is well documented on the ways of water. Wars have been fought over it. Societies have risen up. Societies have been removed all throughout the annals of time. Today, 2022 and beyond, water is still that same highly talked about, highly sought after, highly fought about resource. So it's an apple that's almost too big to bite into, but yet something we must address. Many people are addressing it many different ways, from what we do with water on our own continent, starting with the United States, how it's used in business, how it's used for personal use, and what exactly does that mean? We think we're great. We've got water in every home, yet we go purchase water because we won't drink it or serve it to our kids out of the tap, which used to be the way we used to do it. Go continent to continent. It's still being fought over. Go through Africa and the huge need that is currently being filled by many, many organizations drilling wells all across Africa. Who has not heard of Water for Africa, drilling wells, nation by nation? Go throughout all 54 nations of Africa, and that is a topic and a conversation. From the cities who can't use it, to digging latrines, to actually utilizing it for in-house use. Can I use it for cooking? Can I use it for drinking? Can I or can I not? No matter where you go on the globe today, that is a conversation. So the Liberating Water Directive was a concept, is a thought process, is an opportunity to have these debates, to bring in both sides of an argument, to actually put that argument on the table for the betterment of what we do with water as a resource, what we do with water for mankind, and how can we truly affect that. So Liberating Water Directive is all about water. More succinctly put, the ways of water. So for liberating water, let's start with industrial use. Let's take oil and gas specifically. Water is highly used to the tune of millions and millions of barrels of water a day in the oil and gas industry. You can take that just in the state of Texas in the United States alone, or take it on a global scale. We can have that conversation. Fracking today is an oil and gas industry specific way of mining oil. What does that mean? How is water used? There's a combination of fresh water, which we would know is just pulling up from wells and using it. And there's what's commonly referred to as produced water, or in the industry, it's called salt water, which is a used water in the industry that gets contaminated by the use of chemicals and different applications to the water to allow it to be used for industrial use. But it's not just in oil and gas. We need solutions for that. There are technologies and opportunities today truly bring a solution to how we reuse that water back into that specific industry. Now, once water is used across the board, I don't care what industry you're talking about, let's be very specific on this. There is a way to treat and to clean and to reuse water, or recycle, be another term that we're commonly interchanged with reusing water, but it has to be for specific purposes. So treating water to reuse or recycle water does not necessarily mean it's going to be drinkable. The technologies and the opportunities we have before us today, we need to break out to utilize for drinkability, for human consumption, then there's for human use, and then there's for industrial use. The purpose of this podcast is to have those debates, to bring on key industry leaders, to bring on key societal leaders, to bring on continental leaders who are looking after Earth's natural resource that we call water. So the ways of water, that's what we'll be going after. That's what we're excited about. That's become a passion for us because you have to meet the needs of society. So we're going to dive into this. No pun intended, but we are diving into the ways of water.
Doug, as you open up the door from the personal to the commercial use, and these conversations, as you stated, subjective down to earth conversations, having actual back and forth and less about anger and attacking, but more of understanding. How do you think the water industry as a whole, from gas and oil to personal use, to being able to drink out of a faucet, can benefit when people come to the table not trying to win, but more so trying to understand the other and allow the other to understand them?
One of the first things we must address is this concept of winning. Winning typically comes with a dollar sign. So the conversations, if you step into an industrial application or an application that can benefit mankind for such as drinking water or bottling water, it all comes down to the bottom line. That is not always the best way to address an issue. To have a conversation, to discuss something as volatile or with an aggressive attitude towards water, we must be able to subjectively set our differences aside, have a back and forth conversation, be subjective, think it through, talk it through, have like minds in the room to discuss that. And then from there, we can build out processes. We can build out applications. We can build out the distribution of what needs to be done. All throughout history, we do this, yet with water, there's a huge argumentative aspect to it. And we must be able to set aside the pure dollar signs to say, wow, this is what needs to happen. One of the first initiatives that Liberating Water Directive is focusing on is the oil and gas industry. These conversations are not easy, but they're a must for society to move forward. They must be subjective. We must have the ability to sit at a table and have the back and forth in a subjective manner, discussing the pros, the cons, the issues, what has been done in the past, but with a pure look on the future and what it's going to take to do that. The technologies are out there. Certain governing bodies right now are putting things on the table which are going to start to have an effect. They're going to change the process. They're going to limit certain things we've done in the past that we thought were correct now for the betterment of mankind going forward. That's not a bad thing. The technologies are there. Yes, it's going to change business models. Yes, it's going to shift some bottom lines. But part of that conversation is a must, just as the car industry, when they one day announced that all cars must have airbags. Well, that changed a lot of things, including the bottom line, the cost of the vehicle. But it was for the safety, for the betterment of mankind. In water and oil and gas, we need to have these conversations. We are going to dig into these technologies that exist, some that have been pushed aside, some that didn't have the weight behind them from a political aspect. But yet now we're on the table to allow us to better the ways of water, to utilize water more effectively, to change the way we look at it, to change the way we process it, to change the way we reuse it, to put a greater emphasis on the recycling aspect of water so that we can protect it in a better way, so that it can have a better effect on the streams, and whether those streams are utilized to water cattle, whether those streams are utilized for kids to play in, whether those streams are utilized as a water resource as they flow downstream and they're captured later on for drinking water in cities, small towns, and large towns. So Liberating Water is addressing this. This podcast is set up to open up those debates, to bring in the experts, industry by industry, starting in oil and gas, starting in fracking, and what that means. How do we protect the soil? How do we protect the downhole? How do we protect the layers of our environment? And then how do we protect that which is on top as it flows freely? Join us as we embark on this new adventure. Join us as we debate, as we open up the platforms for a back and forth conversation, not focusing on the hype, but allowing for opinions to be expressed, to subjectively bring this down to earth, allow us to walk it through, allow us to move forward as a society for the betterment of all mankind and the ways of water.
More on the Liberating Water podcast and the Liberating Water Directive is available at liberating-water.com. More on Douglas P. Fish and the fish-stewarding-group at fish-stewarding.com. That's it for today. Liberating Water podcast, episode number 1, focused on the ways of water and an introduction of Doug. Have a good one.